My sister called me too much. At the wedding I paid for venue, dress, even her Peru honeymoon. So I swapped the ECO lodge for tents and compost toilets. 3 days later, where's the SPA? I turned off my phone. The whole ride home, I kept thinking about what Jules' face would look like when she saw the honeymoon package. I imagined the surprise, the squeals, maybe even a tear or two. That thought made the dent in my bank account feel a little smaller. Just a little. My name is Hannah Kim. I'm 34. I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, when I'm not out in the field. I just got back from 6 months photographing endangered forest elephants in the Congo. Mud, mosquitoes, and memories that will last a lifetime. But none of that prepared me for my sister's wedding. I say sister, but I'm adopted. Jules is my parents' biological daughter. We grew up together, went to the same school, had the same packed lunches. But it never quite felt the same. Still, they gave me a life when I had none, and I've always believed you pay that back however you can. So I did. I paid for everything. The venue, a restored farmhouse in Oregon wine country. Photographer, handpicked from San Francisco, someone whose work reminded me of film stills. Jules' dress, custom, imported lace, exactly what she dreamed of. Every flower, every guest plate, every tiny monogram favor, my credit card. And the gift? A honeymoon in the Peruvian Andes. Glamping, but not just glamping. Private guides, eco-lodges, a scenic train to Machu Picchu. I had to tap into savings I swore I wouldn't touch. But it was Jules. My family. The wedding was beautiful. I wore an emerald green dress I found at a thrift store in Nairobi, and somehow it fit the color scheme perfectly. People hugged me, thanked me. My mother dabbed at her eyes during the ceremony and squeezed my hand. It felt, for a moment, like I belonged. Later, I was walking back from the reception tent to grab my backup camera. I paused near the corner of the catering truck when I heard Jules' voice. I mean, come on. She thinks money makes her one of us. Honestly, I wish she hadn't come. Her words hit like a punch to the ribs. I stayed still, completely still, as if movement would make it worse. I heard someone laugh, my cousin, I think. Then Jules again. She's just too much. Always with the over-the-top trips and the drama. Like she's buying her way into the family. Laughter again. Dull and cruel. I turned and walked back toward the reception, my heart pounding. My hands felt numb. And yet, when I stepped back into the lights and music, I smiled. I handed over the backup camera to the photographer, helped Grandma Kim to the restroom, and gave a heartfelt toast about love and adventure. No one noticed. That night, as Jules twirled in her designer gown, Drew kissed her cheek and everyone clapped. She raised her glass and said, to Hannah, our adventure fairy godmother. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. But something inside me was already breaking. I stood behind the reception tent, hidden in a sliver of shadow between the catering van and a rack of empty champagne flutes. My breath caught in my throat like something was pressing on my chest from the inside. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just stood there, completely still, like if I moved, I'd fall apart. I told you, Jules was saying. She's good at throwing money at things, but feelings? Not her strong suit. My adoptive mother, and laughed softly. Well, at least she's useful. Then came Dad's voice, quieter, slower. She's always been the planner. Give her a spreadsheet, she'll show up. But emotional stuff? He let out a puff of air, like he was done explaining me. Still can't believe she came all the way here like this was her wedding, my cousin Jenna added, and they all laughed. I wanted to step out, say something, slam the door on their smug little circle of gossip. But instead, I stayed there and listened, like I always did. The words didn't surprise me. They just confirmed everything I'd been trying not to believe since I was 13. Suddenly, I was back in high school, watching Jules unwrap the leather-bound journal I got her for her birthday, the one I had personalized with her initials in gold. She looked up and said, "Oh, you couldn't find the one from anthropology? Or the time I used my first paycheck from a summer photography gig to plan a family trip to Utah's national parks, and Dad made a face the second we got to the lodge. It's a little rustic, don't you think? Or the worst, his voice when I overheard him on the phone with a coworker. Hannah? She's good at logistics. She just doesn't connect. You know what I mean. I used to think those moments were one-offs. Miscommunications. But standing there in the dark, hearing them all laugh behind my back, I finally saw the pattern. I didn't belong. I never really did. I was the helper. The fixer. The one who made things happen so the real family could shine. And yet, 20 minutes later, I walked back into the tent with a smile on my face. I took selfies with Jules. I handed out sparklers. I hugged and told her how lovely the whole thing was. When Jules raised her glass that night and called me her adventure fairy godmother, the guests clapped. I smiled, but my chest was hollow. Like something I'd been patching together for years had finally split open, and no one noticed the mess. Back at the hotel, I kicked off my heels, sat on the edge of the bed, and just stared at the floor for a long time. My phone was still buzzing with notifications from the family group chat. Photos from the wedding, videos of Jules and Drew dancing, people tagging me in posts and thanking me for making it all possible. I didn't open any of them. Instead, I opened the messages folder I'd kept all these years, a thread called Family Nates. It went back more than a decade. The first one was from when I was 20, working my way through college and freelancing on weekends, and had messaged me, Jules wants to take piano lessons, but the place is pricey. If you happen to come into a little extra this month, I remember that extra meant cutting down on groceries and skipping my usual camera rental that month. But I wired the money the same day. I scrolled through more. Hannah, your sister's tuition is due Friday. Can you cover it and we'll settle later? Hey, any chance you could help with Jules' rent? Her roommate backed out last minute. I know you're in Madagascar, but the heat went out here and we need a new system. Just wondering if you could front us the cost. My hands were shaking a little. Not from anger. From the sheer weight of it. Every single message was about something they needed. Every photo I'd sent from the field, every award I'd quietly shared, left on read. No follow-up. No, we're proud of you. Just silence. I clicked over to Jules' wedding folder on my laptop. Confirmations for the venue, the photographer, the florals. Over 20 emails, all with my card on file. I hovered over the glamping reservation for Peru. The most expensive thing I'd ever booked for anyone who wasn't me. She hadn't even said thank you. Instead, I got whispered insults behind a catering tent. I closed the laptop gently, stood up, walked to the window and stared at the street below, cars passing under soft yellow lights. The room was quiet, but my mind was loud. I wasn't family. I was a credit card in human form. And I was done. I sat cross-legged on the hotel bed, laptop balanced on my knees, the glow of the screen the only light in the room. My inbox was still open to the honeymoon itinerary. Every reservation confirmed. Every detail triple-checked. Because that's what I did. I planned. I solved. I delivered. But I wasn't feeling generous anymore. I clicked into the booking platform. A few keystrokes and I was inside the reservation. 10 days in Peru, luxury lodges tucked into the mountains, rainforest canopy suites, private chefs, full-body massages under linen cabanas. All of it non-refundable. Unless I changed it. I hovered over the Modify Booking button. I could have canceled the whole thing. Let them fight the airline over refund policies, deal with the mess. But no. Canceling was mercy. This wasn't about mercy. This was about letting Jules taste the same grit I'd swallowed for years, just once. I clicked Modify. Instead of the Eco Lodges, I chose a backcountry trekking company I'd worked with before. Legit, but rugged. Form intense. Compost toilets. Group treks with strangers. Wake-up calls at 4 a.m. llama herding in the highlands. Massages. Tri-sore feet and blisters. I kept the same flights. Same arrival time. Same departure. To the outside world, nothing had changed. But on the inside? This was a different trip entirely. By the time I was done, the new itinerary was booked, confirmed, and emailed. I didn't add a note. I didn't warn them. I just closed the laptop, set it on the nightstand, and lay back on the pillows. For the first time in days, I didn't feel tension in my chest. I didn't feel like I had to pretend I was fine. I felt calm. Some people cut ties with screaming matches and slam doors. I used hiking boots, shared toilets, and a campsite that didn't have Wi-Fi. Jules wanted an adventure. She just didn't realize I could still deliver one. 2 days later, I stood with my hands in my coat pockets at the Portland airport, watching Jules and Drew drag their matching luggage toward the international departures terminal. Her white hoodie read, "Wifey," his baseball cap said, "Just married." They looked like a sponsored Instagram post. There she is. Jules squealed when she spotted me. Our magical travel wizard. Drew pulled me into a side hug. Seriously, Hannah, this trip looks unreal. I still can't believe you pulled it off so fast after being in Africa. I smiled, tight-lipped. It was no trouble. They both buzzed with excitement. Jules couldn't stop talking about the lodge's Instagram, the views, the spa menu, the outdoor soaking tubs with orchids on the rim. She actually mimed the pose she was going to do in the bath. One leg popped out dramatically. I just can't wait to be pampered, she said, digging through her tote. And disconnected, you know? Like, fully immersed, but still chic. I said. I handed her a gift bag. One last present. She peeked inside. Oh my God. Is this your Fuji? It's yours now. Figured you might want to take some good shots. Oh my God. I'm gonna cry, she said, holding it like it was made of glass. Thank you. Seriously. Drew grinned. You're the best, Han. I hugged them both. Jules smelled like dry shampoo and high-end perfume. She looked beautiful, of course. Always did. Enjoy yourselves, I said. Really take it in. We will, Jules beamed. We're gonna tag you in everything. I chuckled softly. Please don't. As they wheeled their bags away toward security, I stood still. Let the moment settle. She turned around once to wave. I waved back. Then I smiled, not wide, not fake. Just a little secret smile that no one else would understand. They had no idea what was coming. 3 days later, I sat at a seaside cafe in Monterey, California, eating grilled halibut and sipping a cold ginger soda. My phone was flipped face down on the table, like I didn't care. But I did. I was waiting. Right on cue, it buzzed. Jules, what the hell is this? Jules, no lodge. No staff. We're in a group tent. Jules, where's the spa? Jules, Han? Hello? I flipped the phone over and scrolled. There were photos. One of her in a poncho, standing in front of a wooden outhouse. Another of Drew crouched beside a llama, looking deeply unamused. Then a video clip, Jules whispering into the camera, furious. They said we have to clean up our own compost. Is this legal? I didn't press play. I opened the camera on my Fuji instead and took a picture of the sun lowering itself into the ocean. Light shimmered on the waves like melting gold. Seagulls circled overhead, and a family at the next table was laughing about something simple and sweet, a spilled drink or a forgotten fork. My phone kept buzzing. Jules, why are there bugs inside the tent? Drew is covered in bites. Jules, no cell service at the last stop. What kind of honeymoon is this? I turned off notifications. Then I flagged down the waiter, ordered the chocolate tart, and asked for another ginger soda. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even smug. I was just done. She thought adventure was cute when it came in Instagram-ready boxes. But this was the real thing. And for once, I didn't owe her a rescue. The video call came in just after sunset. I was back in my rental, sitting on the little patio with a blanket over my legs and a cup of tea in my hand. The ocean was a strip of silver in the distance. Incoming call, Jules. I let it ring twice before answering. Her face filled the screen. Wild hair. Red cheeks. Rage radiating through spotty reception. Are you out of your mind? She snapped. We're in the middle of nowhere. There's no spa. No service. No food we recognize. They made us milk a llama, Hannah. A llama. I sipped my tea, quiet. Don't just sit there all calm, she barked. This is a disaster. My sandals are ruined. I have blisters. Drew got altitude sickness yesterday. We had to sleep on the ground. You have sleeping pads, I said mildly. She gawked at me like I'd lost my mind. Why would you do this? We trusted you. You said it was a luxury trip. I tilted my head. You didn't read the itinerary? We skimmed it. It was full of words like authentic and immersive. I thought that was just marketing. I leaned forward. I thought you'd appreciate a raw experience. You know, the kind people like me do all the time. She blinked. What are you talking about? I heard you, I said. Behind the tent. At your wedding. Silence. A beat. Then she opened her mouth. Closed it. I continued. You said I thought money made me part of the family. That you wished I hadn't come. Her eyes darted down. So, I went on. I figured you didn't want my money. Just the adventure. The authenticity. The realness. So I gave it to you. Her face hardened. That was private. You weren't supposed to hear that. But I did. A second passed. Maybe two. You think this is funny? She hissed. No, I said, setting down my mug. I think it's fitting. Her voice cracked. You humiliated us. You did that yourselves. She shook her head. You've always wanted to punish us. No, I said. I just wanted to be seen. But since that didn't work, I settled for being remembered. I had end call before she could speak again. Then I turned the phone over, sat back in my chair, and listened to the waves. It didn't take long. The next morning, my phone lit up with a call from Mom. I let it go to voicemail. 5 minutes later, another from Dad. Then Mom again. Then a text. Mom, call me right now. I sighed, stood by the window, and watched the fog roll off the ocean before finally answering. Hello. Her voice came fast and sharp. Hannah, what the hell did you do to your sister? Good morning, I said. Don't play coy, she snapped. They've been sending us pictures. They're intense. Tense, Hannah. Correct. She's crying. Drew is miserable. They're saying the whole trip is a joke. Did you change their accommodations? I did. A pause. Then, in a lower, furious tone, why would you do something so cruel? I didn't flinch. Because they made it clear I was never part of the family. So I gave them a trip that didn't require me to pretend otherwise. Hannah. No, I cut in. This isn't a lecture. You don't get to scold me for finally doing something that reflects how I've been treated. You're being petty, she said tightly. You're hurting people who love you. I let out a laugh, not loud, but bitter. Love me? You mean use me? Fund your projects. Solve your problems? Stay in the background. That's not fair. No, I said, my voice steady. What's not fair is being treated like a guest in the family I paid to hold together. Her silence said more than her words ever did. I'm not your fixer anymore, I said quietly. I've retired. Then I hung up. I blocked the number. Deleted the family group chat. set the phone down, and walked barefoot out onto the sand, where the tide curled gently against the shore. I hadn't felt this light in years. 2 weeks later, I was in Patagonia, alone, standing at the edge of a glacier that creaked like it was alive. The wind snapped at my jacket, and my boots crunched against packed snow. I lifted my camera and framed a herd of guanacos moving across the ice-blue horizon. Click. Breathe. Click again. This was the version of me I liked best. No text threads, no invisible strings, no need to perform usefulness. Just cold air, clean light, and the quiet rhythm of my own footsteps. At night, I stayed in a ranger's outpost with a tin roof and a stove that made the whole place smell like pine. I journaled before bed, sometimes 3 pages, sometimes half of one. But every word was mine. I wasn't thinking about Jules anymore, or my parents, or the dozens of messages I'd ignored, until one came through on the camp's shared satellite Wi-Fi, flagged by the expedition leader. "Someone keeps trying to contact you," he said, handing over the tablet. Looked important. I didn't ask how he knew that. I just opened the email. From Jules. Subject: "You ruined everything." No greeting. No explanation. Just that. I stared at it for a moment. Let it sit there, glowing in the firelight. Then I tapped delete. No reply. No pause. There was no satisfaction. Just a kind of quiet resolve. The same way you take out the trash without waiting for applause. I stepped outside the cabin and looked up at the sky. Clear, wild stars above a ridge of black mountains. Not a single voice in my head. Not one name pressing at the edge of my thoughts. Just stillness. Peace. For the first time in my life, my choices belonged to me. And I wasn't going back. A month later, I was back in Santa Fe, unpacking rolls of developed film in my studio, the smell of chemicals still clinging faintly to the air. My fingers moved slowly, sorting images from Patagonia, ridgelines under storm clouds, condors in flight, a lake so still it looked like glass. Each photo felt like a truth I didn't have to explain to anyone. Then I saw the email. It had slipped past my filters and landed quietly in my inbox. From Jules. Subject: "I was wrong. I'm sorry." That was it. No body text. No demands. Just a subject line. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't click. I didn't need to. There was nothing left to say, no wound left to reopen. I'd heard everything I needed to hear, not from her words, but from her silence when it mattered. I turned back to the table where one photo stood out, a shot I'd taken at sunrise on the last day of the trek. Wild horses under a thunderous sky. Their manes lifted by wind, their bodies braced against a coming storm. I slipped it into a frame, hung it on the wall near the door. A symbol, not of the pain, but of what comes after. Freedom, motion, survival. I stepped back, looked at it, and smiled. This time, the story wasn't about them. It was about me.